the zone to be. From a yin to my yang to my yang to Z. Put a grin on my chin when you come to me. Cause I'll win, I'm a one of a kind, and I'll bring death to the place you're about to be. Another river of blood running under my feet. Forged in a fire lit long ago. Stand next to me, you'll never stand alone. I'm last to leave, but the first to go. Lord, make me dead before you make me old. I'll feed on the fear of the devil inside of the enemy faces in my sight. Aim with a hand, shoot with a mind, kill with a heart like Arctic ice.
I am a soldier and I'm marching on.
I am a soldier and I'm marching on.
I am a warrior, this is my song.
I am a warrior and this is my song. I'm basking the glow of the rising war, lay waste to the ground of an enemy shore.
I read you Lima Charlie, loud and clear.
All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Lima Charlie. Dawood, was that some of those pictures look familiar? They probably brought.
They do. I think I was there on some of those missions with you.
I think so. And our video's frozen, but hopefully it comes unfrozen. Yeah, I thought you might recognize a couple of those. But with Dawood Luqman, a good friend of mine. Yeah, we lost video, but you're still there, I think. There we go. Deployed multiple times, has an awesome, exciting career. So glad to have you on tonight, man. Thank you for making time to come on and give us some of your stories from downrange. And good to see you again. It's been a long time, my friend.
Yeah, Todd, good to see you again. And before we get started, I just want to say it was 19 years ago that you and I shared the barracks together, our team and yours, and that's where we met and got to know each other, and sort of looked up to you ever since. On the battlefield as well, and on your podcast, and just amazed by the people that you have on your podcast. That's why I was a little concerned that, you know, with all the heroes that you've had on there, I don't know why you'd be asking me to do this, but I'm here because a friend asked me, not because I've accomplished anything great or anything like that. So good to see you again. Yeah.
I can't believe it's been 19 years. First, let me say that that's insane that it is, but it has been. You're right. But we first met gracing the skies under Shelby Stand. Called that. But yeah, it's no, I appreciate it, man. Look, just like all the people you've seen on this show and everything, right? All of them were just dudes or girls doing their job, and none of them feel that way. But you know, for the 99% of Americans that have never been downrange or don't even know anyone that has, right? It's a chance for them to hear these stories for sure. But every one of us have good ones to tell, which is well, I'm glad to hear. Thank you for the kind words, and let's get going. So, yep, you were. I know some of your career, but honestly, you know, when you're downrange and you're running missions, we're not. You know, you and I weren't at the level of rank where we were just sitting in a guard shack all night. You know, hearing everyone's backstory. So I don't know a lot of it. So I'm glad to have you on, and we'll start with kind of who you are and when you joined, why you joined, and how that whole process went. What motivated you to join, step forward, and raise your hand?
Lack of funding. I think that's probably a common response. I was in college, attending the University of Portland, where my father was teaching. So my first year in college was basically paid for because he was an instructor there. And then he applied for and didn't get his tenure. So all that free moolah or free college education sort of was on the verge of going out the window, and I didn't see any other options other than either dropping out and getting a job somewhere, or continue on with some other source of funding. And I literally walked my happy ass into the Army ROTC office on campus, and they said, "Hey, I need to pay for college, and I'm hoping you guys can do that." And so that's how I got into ROTC. And the truth of it is, when I walked in, I wasn't even eligible for a scholarship because I wasn't a U.S. citizen at the time. So I had to take out loans for one more year, and then had to go to Fort Knox, Kentucky for ROTC basic camp. So for the entire year they did basic training for privates, but like one term out of the year they did basic training for ROTC cadets, and that's where ROTC cadets got to compete for scholarships. And I not because of any brains or academic achievements, but purely out of physical busting my ass. I earned a 2-year scholarship, and that's how I paid for the rest of my college.
Awesome.
Not even knowing at that time what being an Army officer entailed. I was just trying to pay for college.
Right. Your video's frozen in, just so you know. I don't know if you can tell that on your side or not, but no. So it's funny, right? The old story is like, go to war, go to jail. Yours was I need to get through college, or I'm not. So that's the way it happened. So you earned that 2-year scholarship. You were able to do your junior and senior year and get contracted and all that. What branch was there something you wanted to get in and didn't? Did you get what you wanted?
So my father was an electrical engineer, and I thought that I would try one of these technical branches, and and maybe get something out of the Army and follow in my father's footsteps. So my first choice was Signal Corps, and then you had to list one of your top 3 choices had to be a combat arms branch. I think I listed Signal Corps was my top, ordnance and armor were my top 3 choices. And as the Army would have it, I got none of those. And not only did I not get active duty, I was told I was getting a reserve commission. This was right around the time, right after Gulf War had ended, and Bill Clinton was pretty big on downsizing the Army and things like that. So a lot of the non-nursing cadets didn't get their top choices or active duty commission. So that's what caused me to then join the 41st Brigade in Oregon, infantry brigade. So I was an infantry officer. Not what I wanted, but looking back 30 years ago, I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of guys, right? Young bravado, all that stuff. They either want to go infantry and all the hua stuff, or not, and then some get a little bit of both, right? They get infantry for a couple years and then branch detail into something else or whatever. Do they do branch detail in the Guard, or once you get in, that's your branch?
I think that's once you get in, that's it.
Yeah, active will do that, but probably Guard not, because of the cost and shared cost of between the reserve component and active duty. Yeah. So infantry officer got in, did that, and then how long now? So you're retired now, right?
I am. Yeah, I've been retired 7 years now. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it seems like it just didn't it? And so you did how many years total?
So I was in the Oregon Guard for 11 and a half years, from May of 2006 to right after we came back from the Afghanistan deployment. So yeah, about 11 and a half years. Did 5 deployments with them. Did all the leadership. I was a platoon leader for multiple different platoons. Probably was a lieutenant a lot longer than lieutenants stay lieutenants these days. So had battalion and brigade staff time, company command, and was even an AGR for a couple of years. And then after the Afghanistan deployment, I just needed to make a change for myself and my family, and looked into some options. I was thinking about just getting out altogether after the Afghanistan deployment. I'd done everything. I pretty much checked the block for everything infantry related, right? Company command, very rare, not everybody gets picked for battalion command. So I figured, hey, company command, leading troops in combat, that's probably the pinnacle of an infantry career, right? So I was thinking about getting out, going to college, getting a real job. And it just so happens that there was a demand for my people with my background and my language skills, and they were willing to pay for a master's degree and let me travel the world and whatnot. So the FAO branch appealed to me, and applied to them and got accepted, and that was the rest of my career. So I went from being the National Guardsman for the first half of my career, and then an active duty foreign area officer for the rest of my time.
Yeah, I want to define that for people. Yeah, FAO is Foreign Area Officer, which is our now. What is that role? That's like embassy work around the
So
around.
it's a lot like um, being a diplomat, being a uniformed military diplomat, because you serve. Because the assignments, they're not all embassy assignments, but even while you're serving in a headquarters, you're basically the expert on that particular region that the Army assigns you to. So anytime the the general is going on a trip to some country in your assigned region, you're the guy doing all the paperwork, getting that person ready, all the talking points, the speeches, the um, who he's going to meet, what that person's bio is, and what that person is interested in talking to you about. What are our national objectives, national goals for that region, that country, all those things you kind of have to be an expert on. And then you're the guy that accompanies the general, the flag officer. And then you sit in the back, take notes, and then you come back and you compile them into summaries and keep a continuity book. And that's how our foreign relations work, by a lot of majors and lieutenant colonels, foreign area officers with regional expertise and country expertise that keep driving that car forward, kicking the ball forward, and
unique role, kind of pseudo State Department and also Department of Defense.
yeah,
right?
yeah, you're dealing with the State Department all the time, and not just the State Department, but other government agencies as well. When you're assigned to the embassy, you've got representatives from pretty much all these three-letter agencies actually working in the embassy. So you're talking to them, you're engaging with them all the time, whether it's formally at work or at a reception later on in the evening at some foreign leader's residence or his place of work or something like that. So yeah, it's very involved. It's being a military diplomat.
It's got to be a small group, that do that. I imagine, like I said, you probably went to some specialized school, that kind of stuff, and then once you get into that, whatever that branch is or detail, you're kind of there, right? So I would assume it, except for like having to do command time as part of career progression.
There's not a command track that leads from FAOs. I know that there have been some FAOs who have taken command, but that's a rare case. FAO, you basically give up any command opportunities when you become a FAO, which is fine. I wasn't really concerned about that. Probably wasn't even going to get picked up for a command for anything else beyond that. But you're basically, you're getting to see all these. And I was a South Asia expert, and backstory on that is you well know, is I was born in Pakistan, spoke multiple languages from that region. And, they're not famous languages, but they're well spoken in and around that. That's why you gave me that ID badge. Remember?
I wasn't gonna say my favorite.
I tried to find that Pakistani ISI badge, and I didn't find it in time. But yeah, so I had that background, and that FAO branch was looking for people to fill slots in the U.S. Army Pacific and the U.S. PACOM, and as soon as they applied, they're like, "Hey, you're going right out to Hawaii." Typically a new FAO, especially these days, they go through training at Naval Postgraduate School or some other school. They go through grad school. They go through language training. They'll go through cultural immersion training. They looked at me and said, "Dude, you already have all this stuff. We're not paying you to go to another language. We're not paying you to go to some other country and hang out for a year and one. No, you're going straight out to Hawaii." It's like, and it was learning through the fire hose. And so my first job, but I was told within the month you're taking a 3-star to India. That's getting that guy ready and whatnot. Turns out, and this is one of those fun stories that you asked me to tell. I got the guy ready, got all the paperwork done. It was just me. It was other people in the office as well. But we got the general ready, and his entourage all ready to go. Visas, you had to apply for visas for everybody and whatnot. The one person that on the entourage that was supposed to go with that 3-star USARPAC commander, the one person that couldn't get his visa to India was the guy who was born in Pakistan.
Ah,
So I never got to go on that trip. But I got a chance to go subsequently at other times. But on that first trip, first assignment as a fail, doing all the hard work and getting the person ready, and then not being able to go, that kind of
so
sucked.
they don't get diplomatic passport. You don't get
No,
a red, black
you only
card?
get a diplomatic passport if you're assigned to an embassy.
Oh,
I think that did play a role in that. I did not have um, official passport, but I wasn't the only one that didn't have an official passport. But they only denied me, and I'm not crying boo-hoo here. It was just an experience. There was nothing negative about it. We probably would have done the same thing if somebody was trying to come into our country that way. But yeah, it just one of those lessons learned. It was just a very good. All of my fail assignments were just amazing. I had a great time, great people. Yeah.
so I remember that what serving embassy and what cities did you, what areas and countries were in?
So my official long-term PCS assignment was in Kathmandu, Nepal. I did a 2-year term as a term as an Office of Defense Cooperation, Chief of the Office of Defense Cooperation. Now, in Nepal's a very small country. The ODC shop was just me and 2 local guys. In other countries where we do a lot of weapon sales and other things like that, like Saudi Arabia, you just saw the president come back from Saudi Arabia. Their ODC shop or Office of Military Cooperation or whatever that goes by different names. Their ODC shop is probably hundreds of people. So both American and locals and whatnot. So it all depends on how big our footprint is in that country. I just got lucky in that sense that I was a one-man shop, one American man, but we had 2 locals. So it was a pretty big deal to be the lone security cooperation representative of the U.S. government to a foreign country. It was great. That's a major.
We have an ambassador to Nepal.
Yeah, he was a great guy to work for. That man had served in Nepal on 3 different occasions over a 30-year career, and so he knew Nepal better than some of the Nepalese did.
Yeah.
The chief of army staff when I was there had actually been a major when this guy who was the ambassador was on his first tour. So they knew each other from like 20, 30 years before. So that was a huge benefit to us, because anytime we were trying to get the Nepal army to agree to something or trying to get them to shift their focus somewhere else based on what our national objectives were or priorities were, I could always go into the ambassador's office and, hey, sir, we're kind of hoping we could nudge the Nepal army to do this with us. And the next meeting they had, whether it was over coffee or whatnot, that point got brought up and then things happened. So yeah, it was just great to watch the American diplomacy at work right there in front of your face.
Yeah, what an interesting perspective to get the opportunity. Like I say, as a major, you were running the show. But,
Yeah. Yep.
And now is it an unaccompanied tour? Did your family get to go with you?
Nepal was a company tour, so my family had a great time. My kids got to attend international schools with families of diplomats of other countries. They even had the Nepalese royal family's children were also attending there. So my kids actually got to attend school with princes and princesses of Nepal, and they had a great time. This is one of the things I'm grateful for. So my kids grew up understanding that there's a bigger world out there than just us and this, whatever we do here. They've seen poverty up front, and they've seen excess up front as well. When we lived in Hawaii, we saw all these tourists and whatnot just spend gobs of money and whatnot, and then you go to Nepal and you see people have nothing, yet who's happier,
Right.
more content.
It's
So
a
love that.
experience for your kids? I mean, I lived in Panama as a kid. I mean, I got the reason it's been big for my wife and I to make sure all of our kids got to travel internationally and see stuff and with student ambassadorships and stuff, because it is yeah, they need to see how good we have it back here. And
Yeah.
the world's a lot bigger than just, 50 states.
Yeah.
Even a first world country, I mean, you still come back on, wow, we got it good compared to even you can go to first world countries in Europe or even the Far East and still come back and realize how much better we have it.
Well, I mean, I deployed to Louisiana for Katrina. I've never in my life thought that there would be a place in these United States that would be worse off than some of the third world countries that I've visited. And this isn't the aftermath of Katrina. It's not like it's a everyday ongoing thing, but yeah,
Right.
it was just a wreck.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your Afghanistan deployment. That was your only combat foreign deployment. Is that right? Or did you have others?
Yeah, combat deployment in the sense that we were actually trigger pullers and things like that. I went back to that region about 5 years later, but it was more. I went back as a fail, so it still counted as a combat deployment. But I wasn't pulling any triggers, wasn't riding any Humvees or anything.
You're probably a bit better environment than the first time.
Yeah. I was thinking, I could probably ass around and maybe jump in the back of a Humvee, but we were when I was in Pakistan doing that, we were being followed everywhere. I know that the ISI or somebody was following us around all the time, but not so much in Afghanistan. But yeah, 2 tours and 2 combat tours. One where we were ETTs together. You guys, your team left Shelby a few weeks before us or a month before us, I think, and then we fell in on you guys, and then you guys moved over to Sharana. But you guys were getting hit indirect fire since the day you got there, and then we took over from you guys, and we were getting indirect fire all the time, those rockets, and then we were launching out on QRFs. I still remember the left seat, right seat ride that you took us on. I don't know if I should say this, but that whole incident with the AT-4.
Yeah,
I should have mentioned it.
that during the left seat, right seat.
Yeah. Remember, it had been. Can I mention it? Can I say it?
Sure.
What I remember.
Yeah.
So before we got there, like the day before we got there, it had apparently fallen off the back of your truck, and somebody
broke. Yeah.
And nobody knew if it was going to function properly. It was like one of those Taliban grenades. Never know if it would go off in your hand or not. So I was like, "Geez, for someone, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
You picked it up, put it on your shoulder, and fired it into the freaking hill. And I'm like, "Thank God, man, it didn't blow up in his face."
Yeah, you gotta own it. You gotta own it. But yeah, it's that great strap. Everyone's like, "Oh, everyone just hangs them on the back of the hatch." Well, guess what? That TTP changed after that one.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Too many bouncing on those roads. Eventually, something's gonna give. But yeah.
So that's one of the several memorable moments I have with serving with you in Afghanistan. That incident where you fired that AT-4, that happened between Fob Orgoon and Fob Tillman, that little pass.
Yeah.
And what I remember from that pass is that almost everybody that we knew got hit going through that pass. But
I think it was called KG. Was it KG Pass? I think that's what that was.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And I never did. I went through that pass several times, and I never did.
I'm sure we probably messed with you about that. I'm sure we had some IS related jokes.
I had like Pakistani connections that didn't fire.
Throwing up gang signs or something,
Yeah.
You came in after we moved. We did some consolidating, and then you were operating out of the Orkney area.
Yeah.
Looking back on that tour, besides that first thing, obviously I know that battlefield space well too, but you did a lot of different missions. Some we jointly did. We definitely saw each other here and there, but anything that stands out from that tour, when you think back to that tour, the people on your team, the people locally, the incidents, the active duty forces worked alongside 287 Catamount and those folks out of 10th Mountain. I mean, anything really stand out was just surprising, shocking, funny.
Yeah, there's a lot. This was a baptism by fire for a lot of us on our team. I'm sure it was the same for you. I think we only had like 3 or 4 people that had been to Iraq before and actually been in combat. Some wounded as well, but the rest of us were virgins when it came to that. So the first few missions doing QRF in response to rocket attacks, going up and finding the poo sites and whatnot. Those are some of the most interesting missions that went on. And then later on, as the deployment went on, we did a lot of work with the 10th Mountain on multi-day, multi-week missions where we were out of the FOB for long periods of times, and just the interaction. I mean, I had no problems with the 10th Mountain people. They're great. I mean, it's good soldiers all around, but to see how they work with the ANA, how we work with the ANA, and how limited we basically had to pick our battles because the ANA didn't have everything that they needed to do the operations with and whatnot. And culturally, we didn't understand a lot of things, or the 10th Mountain people didn't understand because we spent a lot of time with the ANA, we understood that there's some aspects to how they operated that probably weren't kosher. Like lighting up a village before we went into, who did all the searches and whatnot. It was the ETTs and the ANA, right?
Yeah.
But if you're lighting up a village before we go into that village, you're basically setting us up for failure. That was my view, and so we kind of had a couple of back and forth with the 10th Mountain, and they had their ways of doing things. And one of the things that stands out to me, and I don't know if it was, we got to a village and it was just bombed out, and I don't think it was us that did it, or I don't have any proof that it was us that did it or who did it, but I remember the ANA bringing out bodies of little children, burnt, like blacked out bodies of little children. They were carrying them like you carry a rag doll, like with the foot and the things flopping around. And those images have stuck with me all these years. And you talk about having nightmares and things like that. That's what did it. It doesn't happen.
Or did they see do it?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Did the ANA, were they bothered by it, or were they just nonchalant, like, inshallah, like, just like, whatever?
Yeah, I never saw the ANA bothered by things like that.
Yeah. Which is also so disturbing that they become so numb to it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, so, I mean, that's the thing. There's fun times that stick out.
Oh.
All the barbecues that we did with you guys, the fact that the ANA would never eat our MREs, but they were happy to take the cash that we gave them and go buy a couple of goats and kill them right there and cook them up, because they had an entire truck full of pots and pans.
Right.
You remember that, right? They would deploy with pots and pans,
pressure cookers for rice.
Yeah, and they would cook that stuff up right there in the middle of the night and have you come share it with them, and it was amazing. Our Army couldn't live like that.
Yeah, especially during Ramadan and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it was just impressive. Impressive.
We had some good ones down there, right? 3-2 Kandak, especially after where I went. I mean, there was a lot of those guys we missed. Rambo, the one first sergeant. I remember he was Persian from Iran, really good guy. There's a number of them that were really solid. They were definitely a lot more combat troops than what I was dealing with in the Kandak we moved to. But
I love the fact that I never needed a terp. I never needed a terp because during the Russian times, some of these officers went and lived in Pakistan.
Right.
And they came back to fight the Taliban. When they were in Pakistan, they learned all the customs and cultures of Pakistan and languages and whatnot. So my terp he's a nice guy, but he's pretty much useless to me because I would just go right up to the commander, grab him by the shoulder and say, hey, humne ye karna hai. This is what we need to do. and it was great. It was great.
Did they seem standoffish or afraid of you because you knew their language, or did you find that they respected you and appreciated that you could talk with them?
If I may be so bold as to say, I think they loved me. They enjoyed having they loved it when I was around. They preferred having me around versus some guy speaking English that wasn't really making it clear through a third party, through a terp.
Right.
They love Bradley because you remember Bradley, right? So
Yeah.
this is another funny thing is that only in our team did we have a black guy and a Pakistani guy, and they put both of us in the same Humvee for 7 months. There was a lot of chicken curry and fried chicken jokes going on in that Humvee, man. Still to this day. In fact, I want to see him. I'm going to see Bradley this weekend.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Your camera's froze up again, just so you know. Yeah, that's right. I mean, he was a character. He's a character himself, and I forgot you guys were teamed up together. You guys were the officer NCO pair, right?
Yeah.
On your team, but yeah, though that's interesting because I just didn't know if they ever did looked at you as being your Pakistan background, because obviously there was such a bias from some, not all in Afghanistan, if that was ever an issue.
No, and when we went through Shelbystan, and of course you remember we learned 4 months of nothing but OIF tactics in Shelbystan. Remember?
That's right.
There's OIF veterans teaching us how to fight in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Nothing on them. They were doing their job, but that's not what we've been. So we kept getting told, hey, yeah, the locals are going to teach you like this, and the locals are going to teach you like this. The locals don't like this. I'm like, how do you know? We're not. Your experience is Iraq, ours is Afghanistan, and so some of the few ones that had served in Afghanistan, they'd be like, yeah, they hate Pakistanis. They hate Pakistanis. So just like, okay, we'll deal with it when we get there. And so that was sort of in the back of my mind, but it turned out to be nothing.
Well, even and they could have been from Rot or Condon, and they wouldn't have known what it's like down in the Pac in the Pac border region. They would have been. It's like being, hey, I'm from Seattle. I don't know what it's like in Alabama, right? It's like I don't know how they do things, But yeah, so. So looking at that and looking at your other deployment back there and other things, and just the deployment, you got this unique perspective of working, as a foreign area officer. Is there any is there any compares that between a combat deployment and some of those, just in dealing with people or how to negotiate or any of that kind of stuff? Because, even though we were in a combat zone as ETTs, which is why I think the National Guard was a great role for that, or fill for that need. Is it because a lot of ETTs come from a civilian world? They have negotiating, they have other skills outside of military, and they, some of them have very good negotiating skills, which is really what it was all about.
Right. Yeah.
But FAO stuff, how do those shake out?
Those skills come in really handy. You're tested in your negotiating skills tested in the crucible of combat. They come in really handy. All those key leader engagements that we went on, all those, being, having being focused on what you need to talk about, what you need to ask, what you need to say, because your time is very limited. If you stay in a place too long, you can be targeted. That kind of stuff, and those aren't just things that we're making up. It actually happened to our guys. If they hung out at a fob somewhere, or if they hung out in a village too long, look at Wanat. If you hung out at a village too long, you became a target instead of being an asset. And so the whole talking to people, communicating, negotiating, things like that, you had to do it in a timely manner. You had to go in with a plan. You had to go in knowing what you were going to say and knowing what you were trying to get out of the locals, and then you had to get out.
But at this point, you wanted to respect their traditions and culture of chai time and all. There's a lot of.
Yep.
That was a big thing, right? By the way, your video's frozen again. But that was a big thing of we come in as Americans, we're very much bottom line up front. Boom, 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 bullet ties kind of stuff, and that was kind of a cultural shift for a lot of folks over there. Going over there because you may have something important to talk to them about, but they first want to sit down and have some warm up period. So you have to balance that with the same time going, I don't want to be stuck here too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so there a lot of lessons learned that were
Do you think benefited you as a foreign area officer that you picked up in Afghanistan?
Yeah. And not only that, I mean, just dealing, because when you're a foreign area officer, you're almost always surrounded by freaking high ranking officers, both ours and foreign countries. And so just learning how to talk to people of all sorts of different backgrounds and cultures and things like that. That was a definite plus.
Anything from your FAO duties that really stand out? You obviously had a lot more civilian interaction there and stuff like that. Any experiences funny that just are enlightening or just that opened your eyes and just re-educated you in something that just like you never thought of something that way or did not know about something?
Oh, there's way too many to mention. I just the opportunity to travel to all these different places that I never would have gotten a chance to travel to and learn about the culture and meet people and see things and do things. It just boggles my mind, especially for somebody who came from, podunk freaking Pakistan. This is the thing that I tell people, and I tell my kids, like, dude, no other country could this happen. I remember standing in line as a 9 or 10-year-old outside of the U.S. Embassy, U.S. Consulate in Lahore, in freaking hot as hell weather, waiting in line to get our visa. And then 20, 25, 30 years later, sitting next to the U.S. ambassador, helping or watching U.S. diplomacy at work. No other country would that even possible.
Yeah.
So it's just grateful for the opportunities and the lessons learned and the things that the Army allowed me to do and to just and allow my family to do at the same time. And the life that we're living now, it's all started with me not having enough money to pay for college.
Yeah.
And so it's good. I guess the one thing that I'm really grateful for is that I spent the first 10 years of my life as a combat arms guy, basically essentially learning how to kill people and destroy things. But the rest of the time, one of the most significant things as a FAO is that in Nepal, one of our goals was to help Nepal get ready for a disaster. There's a reason why Nepal's got all these high mountains, because there's all these plates shifting and things like that happening. And so Nepal was, due for an earthquake. And that was one of our focuses as a U.S. government is to help them get ready for that eventuality. So we provided them equipment, we provided them training, we provided them all sorts of resources to be able to handle those. And then just so happens about 6 or 7 months after I left Nepal, it was hit with a huge earthquake. And I am grateful that some of the things that I was able to do and some of the things that people before me were able to do helped save lives. And that I'd be forever grateful for that.
Yeah, your video.
I didn't tell anybody what it was as a combat officer. Never. I don't even remember pulling a trigger in anger in Afghanistan or at anybody. But I got to save lives.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, your video's frozen again, man. I think it's just giving you heck. No, that contribution is great. I mean, obviously we all made what contributions we did in the combat zone, but at the end of the day, you win your little battles and that kind of stuff. But as we saw, unfortunately, by the fall of Kabul and everything else, it doesn't mean you affect the change of the greater of the big picture. How has that been, just real quick as we get ready to wrap? In looking back, I mean, obviously as Afghan vet myself, and surrounded by a ton of them, continue to work with a lot of them and stay in contact. I mean, that the fall of Kabul has had a big effect on a lot of people in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people come to you for counsel, and also you still stay in touch with people. I'm just curious from your perspective, how has that impacted folks? How's that been taken?
I had a meeting very shortly after, as it was going on, with one of my company commanders, who also was on that deployment with us, but he was down in the Kandahar region, and we were literally in tears we were eating burgers and we were literally in tears talking about all the wasted time, wasted lives, wasted energy. And that's just from a purely human perspective, right? But if you look at it from a geopolitical perspective, what the fuck did we? Why? Why would we leave like that?
Yeah.
Why would we give up so much? Why would we just leave shit laying around for somebody else to now, for our kids to have to fight in the next war?
Right.
You know, why would we do that? What kind of leaders do we have that in the greatest country in the world? How do we allow that to happen?
Well, you know, it's in hindsight, and after that, I mean, I was involved a little bit during that with helping a couple different groups getting people out. It was a great honor to do it. My employers were great. They just let me just go carte blanche away from work, and I was just working stuff nonstop. But in hindsight, as I looked back and stuff, I thought, man, I don't know if the right word's ironic or what it is, but that, you know, in the GWAT years, all the global war on terror, right? What you saw and I saw, we all did, right? That the American people went above and beyond, even when I was in Desert Storm, right? They went above and beyond to make sure that they didn't do what they did to the Vietnam vets, right? We thanked everybody, you know, they thanked us, and there was all this stuff and accolade. And obviously you probably saw too, a lot of Vietnam vets came out. And I think a lot of GWAT vets made sure they reached out to them to thank them, because it was almost, this is just Troy's, you know, opinion and impersonation. It was almost like the country as a whole felt guilty, as they should, for how they treated the Vietnam vets. So they made sure they went above and beyond for us. But then I looked at it come full circle, and that, wow, you know, we in Afghanistan especially became then Afghanistan kind of became similar to Korea in the fact that it kind of became a forgotten war compared to Iraq, right? We, you know, when we were there were people that didn't even know we were there. I'm sure I know people that I consider very knowledgeable, educational people that did not even realize we were still in Afghanistan, because all they saw was Iraq all the time. Afghanistan kind of became that forgotten war in the mid 2000s. But then it came full circle, and we left just as bad, if not worse, than how we pulled out of Vietnam. And it's like I say, I don't know the right word that we would use to make that comparison, but it was like America went above and beyond for us because of how they treated the people in Vietnam. Yet we came back and had our same Saigon moment, except it was people falling off of C5s.
Yeah, it just seems like we don't learn our lessons well.
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of lessons to be learned. Why don't we learn them? Why don't our leaders learn them? So it just, I mean, it's just, that whole thing was just disappointing. Is even a freaking private could tell you that was jacked up.
Yeah. Even without losing lives.
Yeah.
We lost anyone. It still was. I mean, I thought for sure, I remember we were there, and after came back, you know, doing podcasts and interviews and all stuff. And I was like, we've got a presence there forever. I could not fathom that we would ever give up Bagram, that we would keep it just like we're still in Korea, just like we're still in Germany. Yeah. I would tell people that you couldn't tell me otherwise. I'm like, no, we are there. We've got a foothold in Southwest Asia forever, because we can hold on Bagram and have a point of, you know, a point to launch from and maintain stability and all that stuff. Would never have considered we'd ever give that up. Not when we're still in Germany, we're still in Korea, we're still in countries all over the globe. Yeah. It's like, you know, but yeah, I was just curious at what you saw in her, and not that I was, your reactions are the same as everyone else's, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, I'm an American. Right. I'm an American soldier. I'm not. I make fun of the fact that I was born in Pakistan, and we all. I have an honorary badge that says I'm an honorary or a member of the ISI, given to me by First Sergeant Stewart. But at the end,
I have a picture of that badge.
I literally have the badge. I just couldn't find it today. I don't know. It's probably in one of those boxes behind me. But yeah. But my son's following my. Actually, I can't even say he's following my footsteps. He's already surpassed me.
He's great. I love watching his progress through your Facebook. Yeah.
I mean, in 12 years of being an infantryman, I couldn't make it to Ranger School, and the dude's already there. So it's like, yeah. But yeah, it my opinions and that of my family and whatnot are similar to what probably every other veteran family had when we saw that stuff on TV. I'm like, what are we doing?
Right.
What the hell? And I was just glad I wasn't there, because that it's one thing to be there and not know what's going on than to be there and be led by fucking incompetent people.
Yeah. And froze again, but no, I think of those guys a lot. I know some that went over to help out and do stuff like that, but the guy, I mean, it was obviously a small unit, some Marines, some Army, but what they saw, not even just the ones that were near the bombing, but I mean, we've all seen the pictures of the passing the babies over the wire, all that stuff. Yeah. I've heard stories through connected people and stuff that those folks are going through a different level of hell of PTSD than someone doing a regular combat tour, because it was focused. It was like concentrated, right? Where we had a year spread out, a lot of boredom and excitement. They had, a few weeks of just mass bullshit chaos concentrated down into, a very tight space that they're going through a lot.
And the people we saved, all those flights full of Afghans, those people aren't having an easy life either.
No,
I know some of them. They're hurting. They can't. Some of them don't have jobs. They have kids, but no way to pay for those kids. No way to raise them. No, they're whatever
back there. Parents, grandparents, and stuff. Yeah, siblings. But
they may have been an engineer or a doctor, whatever, in Afghanistan. Here, they could barely make it as an Uber driver.
Right.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah,
and they're gonna have a hard time, but their kids are gonna grow up strong.
And a lot hopefully than they would have, for sure.
I hope that they grow up as strong Americans and not strong something else.
Yeah. Well, hey, Dawood, man, I appreciate you coming on, giving us some of your time tonight. We talked about a lot, and it was awesome because, like I say, you bring a perspective that a very small group can even relate to. Is there anything we didn't cover or talk about that you'd like to have our listeners and viewers know about, or anything else, any topics or anything that you want to just promote?
No, I think we generally covered everything. It was an honor serving with you. It was an honor to talk to you again. Like I said, I've looked up to you for 19 years now. We haven't met since in 19 years, but we probably should fix that sometime.
We tried to a couple times. Haven't we're able to link up at the inauguration and other places, and you've been bouncing around, but we will. I get down to your neck of woods pretty often, so I'm sure I'm going to find my way down there again.
All right, man.
And we'll be good. All right.
Say hi to the team when you talk to them. I still remember them.
I sure will. Yeah, I'm gonna make sure they know about this episode. So, hey, good to see you, brother.
Yeah.
Stay safe, and we'll be staying in touch. Thank you.
Bye. Take care. Talk.